With free birth, it's always like the extreme. So people go, "What if your baby dies?" And I'm like, "Do you go to your OB and ask them how many babies have died on their watch?"
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Birth Lounge podcast. Hi, you guys. How you doing? Guess what we're talking about today? Something that is so controversial, and every time I speak on it, I literally have my lunch eaten. So get your forks and spoons ready and get ready to munch. We're talking about free birth, something that I support. And for some reason, the maniacs on the internet can't wrap their head around the fact that I truly support the freedom of choice. I truly support and respect autonomy. When I say that I trust women to make choices for themselves and to evaluate risk that they are and are not willing to take on, to make informed decisions for themselves and their families, I mean it. And I mean it wholeheartedly. And I don't mean it like a bunch of people mean it, where, oh, I support you until it's something that I don't believe. No, that's bullshit. I really support you wholeheartedly, whether I believe it or I don't, because I trust you. I trust you to make decisions for yourself. And I trust you to know what is and isn't aligned with you. And who am I to tell you that something that you want to do isn't the right choice for you? And for me, that's exactly where free birth falls. So today, we're talking about it. We're going there. We're diving in. I want to know all the nitty gritty. I want to know what a free birth is, what the inside of that community looks like. What would motivate somebody to have a free birth? What are some of the most common myths and misconceptions about free birth? What kind of radical responsibility does somebody have to have in order to free birth? Or is it some reckless, off the wall, off the grid ideation that leads somebody to free birth? Hint, I'll tell you, it's not. Free birthers are usually some of the most educated birthers because they know that when shit hits the fan, it's only them. They are the only ones there. They're the only ones responsible, and they're the only ones that can fix whatever is happening. I also am super curious about what prenatal care looks like for someone who might be planning a free birth. What kind of preparation and education are free birthers doing? And then what about your partner? Are these conversations different than the couples that are having hospital births or birth center births or even home births but attended by midwifery care? How about the idea of obstetrical emergencies happening? Do free birthers think about that? Do they do any preparation? Is there education that goes into the prep for free birthing your baby? Well, buckle up because today we are diving into all of that and more. I'm so excited to be joined by Alia Wright, who is a free birth coach, a doula, and a mother of three. Aaliyah is devoted to helping women reclaim birth as a natural, intuitive, and sovereign experience. She's a wife, a homemaker, and a homeschooling mother who weaves the sacred into each and every day. She believes that birth is not something to be feared or managed, but something to be experienced, embodied, honored. She has over a decade in the birth world and two powerful free births of her own. And now she supports women in shedding the fears and conditioning of the medical model of care so that they can fully lean in and trust their instincts and their bodies through this process. With a tough love with a soft landing approach, Alia guides mothers to deepen their confidence, embrace the unknown, and step into birth as a rite of passage. She is here today to talk to us all about free birth, what you need to know, why someone would choose it, and how to prepare. So without further ado, Alia, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
I'm so excited to have you today because this is a topic that feels so taboo, but for people like you and I, it's not taboo at all. It's a regular, normal conversation that we're familiar with and we talk about freely, free birth. And I think there's so much taboo around it because not only do people not know about free birth, but there's so much unnecessary fear that surrounds this topic where when you actually dig in, you're like, free birth is kind of like the first birth. It's like where we originated. It's what we started with. So I'm super excited to talk about free birth with you today. And I think that would actually probably be a really good place for us to start is what is free birth? People have all these ideas of what free birth is. So explain to us what free birth actually means.
So, free birth to me, everybody's going to have their own definition. Free birth is a birth where there is not a medical person taking charge of your birth or trying to manage your birth. Free birth is a mom or a mom and a dad taking 100% responsibility for the outcome of their birth. And free birth is also a very sacred experience for the couple involved. So I think it encompasses more than just physically what's happening. When free birth happens, it is almost tangible, the transformation that is happening within that family. And so to deduce it down to something like free birth is just birth without any assistance, unassisted birth. It's not just unassisted birth. And yeah, that'd be my definition of free birth.
Free birth has this transformative piece to it that I don't think you get when you have medical attendants in your space because there's always this reliance on, even if it's very, very small. And look, this is coming from someone who I'm home birthing and I have midwives plan to be at my birth. In addition to that, my husband and I are doing the work to have a free birth just in case my midwives don't make it, right? And I think that anytime you have medical assistants in your or medical professionals in your area, in your space, there is this low level or high level for some people, depending on how radical your personal responsibility is, that they'll take care of it. That at the end of the day, they're the ones that are responsible. And that is just something I vehemently believe against. I believe that no matter who is in your space, it is you that is in charge of your birth. And it is you that is responsible for the decisions made. And even if your medical providers in the hospital or the home setting are telling you to do something or not to do something, you still have the free will and the responsibility to either accept, delay, or decline whatever the recommendation is. And I think that is something that sets me apart from a lot of people. And I think that's something that's really missed a lot in traditional birth settings. And I think it's something that I have learned from the free birth community. And I really have just latched onto because I am such a self-responsible person. I really take a lot of pride in being responsible for my own decisions. And it's something I love and respect so much about the free birth community. Now, answer me this. Do you think that it still constitutes a free birth if someone has something like a birth keeper in their area or a doula in their space? So, is the line in the sand that person is a medically trained professional?
I know friends of mine who are, in midwifery school, so they're medically trained or being medically trained, who will still attend a free birth as a doula. I know midwives who will also attend a free birth in the role of a doula. So I think it really matters the role you're playing as a support person. So if you're there and you're medically trained, but you're not doing anything medical or saying anything medical, like you're literally treating this person as your friend, your sister, it's a completely different tone, it's a completely different vibe. And the environment and that facilitates is going to reflect that. The outcome is going to reflect that. And what's going on with the couple is also going to reflect that. Do I put like hard, fast lines on like any of that? No, I'm a doula. I attend free births as a doula. And what do I do when I get there? I sit there next to my client and we chat and we laugh and we hang out and we eat. And she has her baby and I tell her how amazing she is, and then that's it. It's no big deal. And so it's just having someone there who's done it before helps some people get past that like fear that they won't know. Right? Sometimes just having someone sitting there next to you who is completely cool as a cucumber, like not having any fears, not thinking it to herself, what if the baby gets stuck, or what if I need to maneuver this or do this or do that? Like that, those type of thoughts are just never coming to my mind as a doula in a free birth situation because it's not what I'm there to do. So I'm not here to make a suggestion to you to like move here, do that, do this. Nobody's thinking, oh, how far apart are your contractions or how close are they or what stage of labor are you in? It's not any of that. It's just a companion, like literally, and someone who knows, okay, yes, this is good. This is normal. We're moving and grooving. And the funny thing for me is that people go like, all the what ifs come up to them, but I'm like, it's so bizarre. Once you stop thinking like that, they don't ever come up. I'm like, I don't even think I've talked with some of my clients about a plan for if this happens, then do this. Some of us, we just spend our prenatal time getting to know each other, becoming close friends so that I can support them in a loving way. And yeah, I still think it's a free birth. It's whoever you choose to have there, as long as you are the one making all those decisions. Do I think you can have a free birth in a hospital? Absolutely not. I know some people think, oh yeah, I could do that in a hospital. I'm like, there's too many subtle, nuanced things that affect your nature by simply entering the hospital. And yeah.
It's also that there are so many influences that you will basically have to accept in the hospital. You have to accept that you're surrounded by medical equipment. It's part of being in the hospital. You have to accept that people are going to be in your space trying to disrupt you and talk to you. It's part of being in the hospital. You have to accept that you're going to have conversations about declining these things, and more than likely you're going to be facing pushback from that medical staff. That's part of being in the hospital. So can you have a free birth in the hospital? I also agree, no, you can't. Can you have a hands-off autonomous birth in the hospital? Yeah, you can. It's probably going to be difficult. Have we seen it? Yeah, we actually see it a pretty good bit. I would not say often. A lot of people don't have the gumption to actually hold those boundaries. A lot of people do not have the willpower to actually go in the hospital and hold the boundaries that are required to keep their medical staff at bay so that they can actually have a hands-off autonomous birth in the hospital system. But is it possible? Yeah, it absolutely is. We do see it a good bit, but I agree. I don't believe that having a free birth in the hospital is possible. Okay, you brought up something that was bizarre. You said it's bizarre. You ask all these questions. You know what I find bizarre is that nobody ever asks these questions of the hospital system. They're never like, what if this happens in the hospital? Because they just have this innate belief that, well, the hospital system will take care of it. But something that you and I know so well, so deeply, is that so many times those things happen in the hospital because the hospital system did it. They caused it. And so
Yeah.
we're so much less likely to experience those things at home because we don't encounter that interference or those interventions or that pressure to do intervene, intervene, intervene. And I find that so bizarre. I always chuckle when people say, what if this happens at home? And I'm like, what if this happens at the hospital?
Yeah. Yeah. With free birth, it's always like the extreme. So people go, what if your baby dies? And I'm like, do you go to your OB and ask them how many babies have died on their watch? Literally, have you ever done that? Nobody has ever done that. Nobody will confront them about the number of babies that have died on their watch because the number will scare you.
Shock you.
Yeah. And so then you'll start to question a little bit more. Wait, why? Wait, how? Okay. And so, yeah, everybody, that's where my mind is just, well, when I coach, we go through a lot of deprogramming and like deconditioning. We got to completely do many mindset shifts throughout the process. For the majority of people, they've got to make several mindset shifts. And it helps to have someone who isn't afraid to like question or challenge your beliefs through that deprogramming process. Because I think it's very easy with the internet to just find a bunch of affirming things that will like tell you what you want to hear, tell you and not challenge you. So, oh yes, free birth is safe. You can find tons of stuff on that if you want that. You can find tons of information on all of the things that you should do to prepare and things you should buy and things you can monitor in yourself or for yourself that is the same like the doctor would monitor or whatever, how to do your own prenatal care and this and that. But there's not anything out there telling you like, why do you think you need to do this? This is what I want you to dig a little deeper in. I want you to really think about where did that thought even come from, right? Because you don't see a freaking elephant, right? They're not pacing, thinking, can my body do this? Am I gonna know what to do? Am I gonna be in the right spot? Am I gonna interpret all these? They're not questioning themselves at all. They also don't have this part of their brain. I give it to them, the frontal lobe, but it's like you have to learn how to shut that part off to allow your primal brain to do its thing. And so that's where the preparation for free birth comes in. And when you work with somebody, basically that's what, well, I don't know what other people do. That's what I do. I'm like, let's get to the root of why you think this is something and who told you that and like where did that come from and really try and form your own thoughts and ideas and beliefs around birth, not just have somebody tell you what is.
Okay, so tell us, what are the motivations of people who free birth? What would drive someone to want to free birth?
Yeah, I know all different avenues lead people to free birth. Lots of times people are on their second baby and they're like, okay, everything that happened with the first one, I don't want that. And then they come to the realization that the only way to ensure that's not going to happen is to not allow anybody who could possibly interfere in any of the ways that disturb birth. And that could be as subtle as simply saying a comment like, wow, you're measuring big. Like midwives measure you, right? And they listen to your baby. And so even those subtle things, those subtle comments can plant seeds of doubt as if my baby's big, can I do this? or what does that mean? Is it a problem that my baby's big? What is big? It can trigger all these questions. And so the only way to 100% ensure that your thoughts and actions around your birth are 100% yours is to exclude the majority of outside people, which then you free birth. Other women, surprisingly, I've had several first-time moms through the power of all of the knowledge and information we have available to us, found something about free birth and they say, it feels like what I'm supposed to do. It feels like the most natural decision I could possibly ever make. My first free birth I ever supported, she was from Ukraine and her husband was from Mexico. And they were just, we were in Atlanta and they were completely like, we tried to go to the most natural way and it was still so invasive. It didn't feel special. It didn't feel sentimental. It didn't feel sacred. We know that we made this baby in love and we want to birth this baby in love. And like, we don't want anyone outside of us telling us what to do or how to feel or what to think. And so that was her first baby. She birthed that baby so fast, I didn't even make it there until 20 minutes after. But she knew that's what she wanted to do. So she did. Like when you set your mind to something, you can just do it. So some people come from it from that perspective. Other people are birth workers. And like me, I was a birth worker for just under 10 years when I had my first free birth. I had my son when I was 17, became a birth worker shortly after. And so I knew all of even the best home birth midwives that I like love to death. We're best friends. We'll talk all the time. I still wouldn't want you to be at my birth because I still know you are bound to follow whatever protocols you have to follow to maintain your licensure. You are not bound to me as your friend or client. You're bound to the rules of the state. And so I knew as a birth worker, I saw it, right? And I saw how it sabotaged clients. The most well-meaning providers will still sabotage clients' births because of the nature of what they do,
Amen
and
to
how it
that.
affects the nature of birth. And so I don't look at these people or providers or practitioners as evil in any way or like they're all bad. It's just, I know you mean well and you're trying to help with a, something that has been like, what is the word that I'm looking for? I know you're trying to help with something that has been completely like turned up on its head and backwards. Like the way that we do birth is just backwards, upside down, and wrong. And so I know most people are trying to help, but they're still within some kind of restriction or limit of what they can actually facilitate. So as a birth worker, coming to free birth was like, there's no other option. There is no other option. If somewhere in my pregnancy I felt that I needed medical support, I would seek it. But if I'm healthy, there's no other option. Free birth is the only way I'm going to have my baby. And so I know people come to it from that avenue as well. Now, a lot of people try to discredit this reason for coming to free birth, and I think it is a very valid reason. A lot of people come to free birth because they cannot afford a home birth. And I think it's perfectly fine to do that. If you realize I can't afford a midwife, but you would still feel comfortable giving birth with a midwife, then you can very well have a free birth. It's like you're a perfect candidate to have a free birth as well. But a lot of times it is the cost of a midwife not being covered by insurance or the midwife not taking insurance or the specific type of midwife and all those different nuances that and variations by state. I think all of those are valid reasons to have a free birth.
Yeah. I always think all reasons are valid. I never need justification from people. I'm like, all right, you want to do this? You feel good in that? You feel safe in that choice? You feel okay with the risk you're taking on? Cool, let's do it. So, yeah, I agree. I think that whatever has led you to want to have a free birth, I support you in that decision. I've always been a supporter of free birth, and I catch a lot of flack for that online, surprisingly. I would think that 10 years in, people would know who I am as a human, but they don't. And they are just always so shocked. Oh my God, how could you? And I'm like, honestly, how could you not? I'm trying hard not to judge you, but why do you think you know better for this person than they know for themselves? You should stop talking because you're telling me so much about yourself and your philosophy about your authority over other people and what you think that you know so much better about. And in reality, you don't. Okay, along those same lines, talk to us about some misconceptions or common myths that may exist or persist on the internet about free birth.
Hmm. I don't know. What are common myths about free birth? I think some people think it's reckless or something, or people go into it haphazardly or ill prepared, or that they're just like willy-nilly going into free birth. I don't know anybody, even someone who decides in their 40th week of pregnancy, that goes into their free birth willy-nilly. They almost always are like deeply considerate of all factors, and being all factors being themselves, their baby, their partner. They are deeply considering all of these things. And so, yeah, that's a myth, like that people are just like, oh, no, I'm not going to do I'm not going to check in on myself. I'm not going to do any prenatal anything. I think most people are doing something, even when you have a wild pregnancy, which is like where you don't do testing. Like you might not even take a pregnancy test. You might not ever listen to your baby's heartbeat. You may not ever weigh yourself or check your blood pressure, or all these things are optional. Some people choose to check their glucose on their own, and I love that there's all these options, that we have the freedom to do whatever we want, right? But there are some people who choose not to do any of it. And even the people who choose not to do any of that kind of checking in, they're still checking in, right? They may have a meditation practice where they are daily communicating with their baby. And that's more information than you could get from any blood test, pee test, urine test, a reading on a machine. Knowing within yourself what's going on with your baby is the most valuable information you could have. And so maybe to the outside world that looks like very irresponsible when it's actually the most responsible. And so I think that's often something that is a misconception. The other misconception, or like a myth, I would say that I hear a lot, is that things go wrong often. And that it just doesn't. I'm like, I don't even know. There's no statistics because there's nobody tracking these things, right? There's nobody keeping track of all of these sovereign babies being born perfectly. And so there's no studies on it. There might be a record of how many were born, but nobody's getting details here. And so I know one free birth mom who has had something go wrong, but also the amount of women who don't have anything go wrong is far greater. And so it's like you'll hear stories or you'll find community, and then you're just like, oh wow, I never knew, because it's a private decision. And I think the amount of people who think things go wrong is very high, but the reality is that the majority of the time nothing happens. People have their babies and they go about their life, and you never know about it. And yeah, I would say that's a big myth, that the likelihood of things going left, south, wrong are high is a myth as well.
I personally believe that's true about birth across the board, that for the most part, birth will just go as it's supposed to go. If we would stop looking for problems, if we would stop digging for information, if we would stop coercing people into decisions, if we would stop intervening unnecessarily, birth works. It just does. If it didn't, the human race would not have progressed like it has, right? Like we would just all be dead because birth didn't work. But birth does work. And when you leave it alone, it works really well most of the time. Now, when I have this conversation, I'm always very sure to hold space for the fact that there are people that things go wrong and that there are unpreventable, unpredictable things like amniotic fluid embolism. These things are rare and they're complications that we can neither predict nor prevent. But for the most part, birth works and it will just go as it is supposed to. And I also think it's so beautiful that when you shift that idea of responsibility from being your provider's job to being your job, you find so much freedom to just trust yourself. And that is not specific to free birth. I wish that every woman could shift that responsibility. And it's largely what I teach in the birth lounge is that what happens in your birth is your responsibility. The decisions that are made is your responsibility. And if you've hired medical professionals and you trust them, then that's fine. But to put the onus on them to say you're responsible for the outcomes of my birth, I think is a little unfair because it's really you, no matter what you're setting, no matter who is around you, no matter who you've hired or trust to be in your space, it's you that is responsible for the decisions that are made in your labor. And it's you that has to be responsible for the ways that you respond and react in labor. And it's you that have to live with the things that happen in your labor. And so the only way that you can do that confidently is know that you trust yourself enough that no matter what happens, you'll be able to handle it.
Yeah, I agree 1000%. And I don't look at birth as like just a one time, like a day, right? Like you are becoming a mother. This is setting the tone. So why would you want to start off your motherhood journey not being responsible for your child? They send you home 24 hours later with this baby that you then be 100% responsible for. So why not give yourself that whole lead up through your pregnancy of shifting your mind to I am responsible for this other human being now. I am a mother. Fully own that. I am in charge and like I am this person is going to look to me for all of these things and I cannot be somebody who is looking outside myself and constantly doubting myself and thinking I don't know what to do. And then I get into supporting women through postpartum and postpartum anxiety and things like that. And I'm just like, it begins before that, right? You got to learn to start trusting yourself and your intuition and knowing what is right, wrong, healthy, unhealthy, like the things that are right for you before your baby is here. And so when you choose a path like free birth, it honestly sets you up in the best way for being a mother who is mothering from a space of intuition and confidence because you're taking that responsibility. You're taking this into your own hands from the jump. You're saying, okay, I am owning this. I am being protective over myself and my baby now, not after someone else makes sure everything's okay. Now, I'm the one who's going to make sure everything's okay because I'm the mom. And then also your partner, husband, is also taking on that responsibility. And I don't think it's talked about enough how emasculating it is for men in the birth room to be standing there helpless, like they cannot do anything, like they are incapable of supporting their wives through this process, and how that sets a shift, a rift in the marriage or partnership later on. Then you see marriages fall apart when babies are like a year old, 2 years old, and you're like, what happened? And it's like that shift happened way back when that man watched his wife be completely abused in front of him and not know what to do. And I look at this as like such a bigger picture thing than, oh, you're going to give birth. And I want that experience to be great. But like also, this is impacting you and your family for the rest of your life. It's not just this day. It's not just this moment when the baby is born. It is so much bigger. And you have the opportunity to set yourself up in the best way possible. Like the absolute best way possible to mother in this way that I think is lost in our society today. Yeah, that's my viewpoint on yes, okay, you want to always with the value of autonomy and you're in charge of yourself, self-authority and all of that, but also it's bigger. And can we please honor that, how much bigger it is? Yeah, I don't know where we were going with that, but yeah.
No, you just gave me full body chills. I Something I say to my clients all the time, and the people that hire me are very into self responsibility. They want to take control of their birth. They appreciate the radical responsibility that comes along with making decisions for themselves. And I am not a stranger to just telling someone, you're outsourcing your power. Oh, but I'm being told I have to do this. Okay, you're outsourcing your power. What do you want to do? What does your intuition tell you?
Yeah.
You ask for the hard numbers? Have you looked into the true data? That hospital policy is not law. You're letting someone else dictate you. I just talk so bluntly, always from a place of love, but just so straightforward with my clients because I think the more that we beat around the bush and we sell people bullshit, the more that they are going to be traumatized on the other side of this. You need somebody that is going to keep you on the straight and narrow and say, hey, wake up, remember who you are. You don't need somebody else giving you permission or trying to tell you that you can and can't do something. You already have that authority. Don't let somebody take it from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so questions about legality. There's always at least one in the crowd that someone will say, it's illegal for me to free birth. And I'm like, that's just not the truth. So, talk to us about the legality of free birthing your baby in the United States.
In the United States, it is legal to free birth your baby in every single state. Now, there is like some random counties here and there that will give you a hard time. Does that make it wrong or illegal? No. Can you do things to make it easier on yourself if you live in a county where it is difficult or they give you a hard time and try and call authorities like CPS on you or something? Can you travel? Those are decisions you have to make for yourself. Or are you going to be willing to advocate for yourself if you know that you live in a place where that is likely to happen? It's very few places where it is likely to happen, but I just know, I think there's a couple counties in North Carolina specifically that they will give you an extremely hard time. And to that, I would say if I lived in one of those counties, I wouldn't have my baby there. I would literally travel for as long as I needed to away from there to have my baby because that is insane. And or I'm going to have a pretty sturdy legal team ready to go if that's a fight I want to have. But to me, the fight is not worth it mentally. So I would just do whatever I needed to do to go somewhere else to have my baby. If you were traveling, I actually have a friend who was traveling to try to birth her twins in Texas from South Carolina because she wanted to go back to her midwife. She ended up birthing her twins on the way in New Orleans. But there's always something you can do. Does it get difficult? Would you maybe have to deal with different logistical things at that point? Yes. But what you got to choose your heart at that point. Which one do you want to deal with? But at the end of the day, it is 100% legal to free birth your baby in every single state in the United States.
I love how you say choose your hard because this is a conversation we have with our clients too. And it often, one really common example is, oh, I really don't want an induction, but it's going to be so hard to tell my doctor I don't want it. Okay, you can either have a really hard conversation or you can have a really hard induction. Which one would you rather? 'Cause, both options are hard. You either have an uncomfortable conversation setting boundaries for yourself, or you have an uncomfortable labor being forced into something you didn't want.
But can you hear that? Like you're scared to tell your doctor that you don't want something,
Like
but
that
you're
person's
gonna
not
trust
safe.
them with your life.
Yeah.
You're trusting them with your entire life and your child, but you can't even tell them, I don't want that. I don't want it. That is just bonkers, like completely bonkers. And I tell every single person I work with, I tell all the doulas I coach, you need to tell your clients, I don't care if they want the test that or the thing that their doctor is recommending, they need to practice in that office saying no. Just tell them no one time, see how it feels. How does that feel in your body? Did they try and make you feel little? Did they come at you like they are your parent? They do not. Did they show you respect? Were they completely disrespectful and treat you like a child? Now you know who you're dealing with. Some doctors are super respectful and honor wishes and don't question it and don't bat an eye. Other doctors are there like, how dare you question? How dare you decline that? You need to do that because I'm telling you, you need to. There are doctors who will talk to women, grown ass women like that. And you need to know that prenatally so you can make the best decision for yourself and your baby, which would likely be change providers or completely leave that alone. You don't want that.
Yeah.
But I just think that is the amount of authority that we give to medical providers is insane. My oldest son is severely special needs, disabled, whatever you want to call it. He has a brain injury and we deal with at least 5 different specialists, neurologists, GI doctors, and different specialists. Anyways, I learned from I was 17 when I had him, that doctors are just humans. They're just people. And you need to talk to them like they are just people so that they will talk to you as a normal person, not someone beneath them. And learning how to speak to providers also makes you more confident in your free birth because you know that if you need medical support, you know how to go get it and tell them what you need. They are providing you a service and you are requesting a service. You don't have to do anything they recommend, but they have a responsibility to provide you some kind of service. So when it comes to talking to medical providers, I hope everyone just shifts even that perspective of they're just people. They're just trying to go to work and pay their bills. And so you're coming in here messing with their system, their flow, and it's not a bad thing. It's just they're not used to it. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong for requesting different or wanting different or wanting someone to explain things to you further, deeper, more thoroughly. And so people, you can't be scared of a doctor or scared of what they're going to say. That's just crazy.
Not only are you not wrong in wanting those things, but it's literally your right. It is literally your right to have the things that you are trying to make a decision about explained to you in a way that's not only understandable to you, but in as many ways and times as you need to make a confident and informed decision, that is literally your right. Aaliyah, I love what you said about the authority that we give to these providers, because these providers earned a degree and they earned a title, but they did not earn, and their title and degree does not give them the authority over you or your body or your decision. And I think that often gets really muddled in the interactions that we have. So many women go in there and they think this person is a doctor, so they can tell me what I can and can't do. And au contraire, sister, no, they cannot. They do not have the authority or the power to tell you what you can and can't do. What they do have the authority to do is tell you what they think is best. They have the authority to inform you on their clinical opinion or their clinical recommendation, but realize that Dr. A, Dr. B, Dr. C, and Dr. D, if you ask them all the same questions, you're likely to get four different answers and four different clinical recommendations. And so you have to realize that if you're going to go in and have authority over your own story. I'll give you an example from my own pregnancy. In my very first hospital-based appointment, which I've talked about this in a previous episode where I explained, where I shared with you guys my pregnancy announcement, and I shared what my first trimester was like, and I shared why I'm seeking out co-care. At our first appointment with our hospital-based midwife team, the nurse came in and says, here are the tests that we're going to run today. And I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I knew that I was going to decline those. And so I intentionally chose my language to bridge a gap. And I asked her, I don't want those. Is it okay if I decline? Now, I already knew it was okay. I was declining. I wasn't actually asking for permission, but this was more of an extension of, I want you to know that we are working together. I do see us on the same team, but don't lose sight that I'm the authority here. And she says, yes, you can, but it's not safe. And I just simply said, okay, I'm declining. And that was the end of it. And then when my midwife came in, she said, so you wanted to decline all of those things? And I said, yep, I did. And she said, okay, great. And that was the end of the discussion. And those are two different scenarios. I was going to say that's how it should be. How it should be is how my midwife responded. How the nurse responded was inappropriate and fear-based. She should have never said, you can, but it's not safe. There was fear in that. There was guilt in that. There was language that tried and attempted to put her authority on me. She tried to make me, with her language, feel as if I was making a wrong decision or being negligent to my body or my baby or about my pregnancy. I'm very lucky that I have the confidence and the authority over myself that I knew she was wrong. I knew I was safe to decline those tests. I had already decided I wasn't going to take those tests. They didn't have any real benefit for me. I knew where I stood going into that appointment. I had extended an olive branch, and you know what? She now doesn't get that language. I now do not ask her questions. When she says, this is what we recommend, she does not get the answer of, is it okay? I now simply say, yep, I agree to that, or no, thank you, I'm declining, because I had given her an opportunity to meet me halfway. She chose to respond in a fear-based way, and she lost that privilege of me extending that olive branch. And so now my authority starts very clearly when I walk into the door of that room. Now, my midwife gets a different energy. I don't have to be so authoritative in the relationship with my midwife, because she showed me that she's not going to pressure me. She's not going to bully me. She's not going to try and coerce me or convince me otherwise. I said, yes, I declined. She said, okay, great. Moved right on to the next question. So I just want to give you
Right.
really clear examples of not only what you might encounter, but how you can respond in that moment, but also going forward.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because there are times when you may need to seek medical counsel when you're having a free birth. I choose the easy way to do things, or what I perceive as the easy way to do things. So my husband's in the military. My kids need social security cards and birth certificates. So I know the easiest way to get a birth certificate and a social security card is to have at least one prenatal appointment and take my child to the pediatrician within the amount of days that my state requires. Okay. I don't have a problem with that because I don't have a problem advocating for the things that I do and do not want to happen to me. So to me, that is the easier way because I know I can go into a doctor's office and say, I need proof of pregnancy. I went to 2 prenatal appointments with my daughter, my second free birth, because I knew that would be the easiest way. When I was in Atlanta, I did prenatal appointments with a home birth midwife friend, which was easier because she could do the documentation. But I went to 2 prenatal appointments, obviously one where they just confirm that you're pregnant, and then the second one is where they could do any testing that I requested, which I did choose to request some testing because me and my husband decided we wanted to do that. And but when I went in there for the confirmation of pregnancy, they wanted to do an ultrasound. And I told them I don't want to have an ultrasound. And she said, okay, do you want to wait? I actually just wanted to wait a few more weeks to be able to have the not transvaginal ultrasound. And I told her when I come back for that ultrasound, I want you to keep it less than 2 minutes. So whatever you need to get done, you have to do it in less than 2 minutes. And she did. And then I sent her a nice message in the portal and I said, thank you so much for the care and the respect you've given me. I'm going to have a home birth, but I do hope that should something medical arise throughout this pregnancy, that I can come back and reach out to you. And she said, that's amazing. I hope you have a beautiful birth. I'm here if you need anything. And this is not like any special, most recommended by the home birth community doctor. It's just one random OB at the local hospital office that if you really own your stuff, like they respect it and will usually work with you. And so I think there's a time and a place for a lot of things. And so when I was more than halfway through my pregnancy and having these headaches, things I don't have. I don't have headaches. I never have headaches. It was weird. So I tested my own urine, and if my urine had came back with like protein in my urine, or my blood pressures were weird, or something was fishy for me based off of how I was feeling and listening to the cues and signals that my body was giving me, I would have reached back out to her and said, hey, I think I need some further testing. I think this is what's going on. Can we explore this and see what's going on with me and my baby? But there are some people who choose to free birth who would not do that. Not because, more so because they are okay with what is. That is where I think personal choice and responsibility really comes in. It's like when you have that headache that you know could be something wrong, are you going to test to see if something's wrong, or are you just going to let it play out? I'm not a let it play out kind of person. It's not my personality. So I was like, I just want to make sure. And I know that these things are ways that I can make sure. So I'm going to use the tools that I have available to me that I feel are not invasive. And so I know of a friend who was planning a free birth and was in denial that something was going on. She kept avoiding what was, and she'll say it. As she tells her story, she says, I did not want to see the red flags blaring, the sirens blaring in my face until it was too late. And so she ended up having a micro preemie who is a doll now. She is gorgeous and thriving, but she ended up going to the hospital to have her baby because she was having her baby. Her baby was being born as a micro preemie. But like I said, there's different places where you can come at these things from different mental states. And when you are taking on that responsibility, when you are planning or having a free birth, or you're doing your own self prenatal care, or you're having a wild pregnancy, these are all decisions that you are making. And most of the time, you're going to be confident in your decisions. And then if there are those times, like my friend, she now has learned so much and has grown so much from that experience as a person, as a mom, like just mentally, she knows something about herself and she's able to tell her story and admit, I just didn't want to admit that something was wrong. To me, that is 1,000 times a better experience than someone who goes, if I wasn't at the hospital, my baby would have died. If the doctor didn't XYZ, I would have died. And it takes some ownership in that. If I would have changed my diet, I would have set myself up to be in a better position throughout my pregnancy and birth to have avoided some of the like where is your ownership? If I didn't sign myself up for that induction that was completely unnecessary, my baby's heart rate wouldn't have tanked and I wouldn't have needed a C-section. Take the ownership in that situation. But I think because she was planning a free birth, she was already in the space of taking ownership. So coming out of it, she's able to recognize where she was wrong. And we are allowed to be wrong.
Oh my God, yeah.
We are
We're
allowed,
wrong all the time.
we're allowed to make mistakes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just the human experience. That conversation of take some ownership, that gets people big mad. Big mad. People just want to walk around with their heads in the clouds, acting as if they have no ownership and no responsibility in the decisions that are made, that life is happening to them, not life can happen for and with you. And it's something that I just cannot relate to at all.
Yeah. Oh, same. 1,000% same. I cannot relate. I cannot understand it. I don't like it. I can't be around it. Like when somebody says things like that, I'm just like,
Gotta go.
okay, yeah. Uh-huh. My husband, on the other hand, is the type of person to be super confrontational. So we try to keep him away.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we've teeter-tottered around the idea of prenatal care, but explain to us, and obviously, each pregnancy is as individual as your fingerprint, and so it won't be the same for each person or even different pregnancies within the same family. But in general, what can we think about when it comes to prenatal care in terms of free birth? What does that typically look like for people who are choosing to free birth?
Yeah. So it can be, I would say, this wide catalog of things that you can choose from. So you get to decide, do you want, it starts with a pregnancy test. Do you want to take a pregnancy test or do you want to trust your body is pregnant and you know you're pregnant? That's one of the first things. And taking a pregnancy test doesn't mean you don't trust that you're pregnant. It's just some of us want a little confirmation sometimes. And so it starts with that, but then it continues, right? Do you want to listen to your baby's heartbeat when you're able? Which way do you want to listen to your baby's heartbeat? Do you want to record it or do you just want to listen and enjoy it? Do you want to track your blood pressure? Do you not want to track your blood pressure? Do you want to do some glucose testing? Do you feel like you need to? Can you take accountability for your diet? Diet plays a huge role in a lot of things to do with pregnancy and birth. And I don't think that gets talked about enough, but your diet really affects a lot of how you are and how your pregnancy and your birth goes. So prenatally, these are the things that are coming up. These are now, these are the things that you can choose to do or not do. With my first rebirth, I kept a little log book, right? So I would check my blood pressure once a month-ish. I would listen to his heartbeat when I could. First, I did it with a Doppler. Then I learned how to use a fetoscope as he got bigger. And that is so cool. They're so different. I would not use a Doppler anymore because the sound with the fetoscope is so pure. It's just so different. It doesn't even sound the same. It's just so pure and like a different connection. But you could also do journal check-ins, right? So I did some of this with both free births where I spend time in meditation and then I ask my baby questions and they respond. Or you get messages from God, source, the universe, whatever you choose to call that. And you can journal on them and you can reflect on them and you can say, oh, that came up. What does that mean? And you can explore these things with a sense of curiosity. Okay, you're giving me this information. What is that? Or a pain, right? We have all kind of aches, pains, twinges, feelings. What does this mean? Instead of thinking this is something wrong, what is this? What are you telling me? What information are you giving me? Do I need to move my body differently? Do I need to sleep differently? Should I be feeding myself more or less of something? Exploring it with that, like those with a sense of curiosity. So like when I'm working with someone, maybe they're like, "Oh, this week I've had this horrible pain like right here." And I'm like, "Did you rub it? Did you massage it? What did you do when you felt the pain? Did you try and think of the first thing that come to your mind was like, how can I numb it? Can I get rid of it? What is it a clue of?" So if you're having a pain right here, is what check your posture, right? How is your body carrying the weight of this child that is growing? How is it growing? Right? Is there something you can do to make your body have an easier time of this? Can you stretch in certain ways? Can you change the way you sit or how much you sit or the way we carry our bodies and the things we do with our bodies in today's day and age does not really align with our nature. It's very not normal to be sitting as much as we sit. It's very not normal to not squat down multiple times a day, but we don't do it. We might bend down, we won't squat down. And so if we put ourselves in the mindset of like primal times, how would I be moving my body throughout the day? And how can I incorporate some of that into my daily life now? That's what helps your body prepare for birth and labor and what makes your pregnancy a lot more easy and more comfortable. And so I always just encourage you to like anyone, but free birth facilitates it because you're not going to go to your doctor and say, I'm nauseous. What can you give me to get rid of this nausea? We've all done it. It's like, I don't want to be nauseous. But then I got to a point for me, right, with my third baby, I knew I was going to be nauseous. And I was like, okay, let me think. What is my body? I would sit with myself in the morning before I even got up and I would think, okay, what sounds good? I know I'm going to be nauseous the second I get up. So what sounds good? So I would set myself up with like warm bone broth and that ended up easing the nausea, but it's not ever recommended. Everyone take a shot of apple cider vinegar or suck on a ginger candy. And I'm like, I hate that thing. And so I'm like, I don't the taste of a ginger. I don't like candy, period. So like to think sucking on a candy, that doesn't something I wouldn't that's something I wouldn't do. When you are choosing free birth, you are able to really tune in. And I coach women on how to tune in and how to trust the messages that you are receiving. And we go through talking through how we've been really conditioned to ignore our intuition constantly. Constantly, we will ignore it. I mean, on the littlest things throughout the day. Our intuition may say, I need to drink some water, and then we'll ignore it. Our body may say, I need to go pee, and we'll just hold it. And why? Why are we doing this? Why are we not just doing what our body is telling us to do? My hips will feel some type of way and I need to move. Why don't I get up and move? Why don't I do that weird swaying, gyrating thing that looks weird? Because it looks weird. That's why you don't do it, because it looks weird. Somebody's going to judge you. And now you have to deal with somebody thinking you're weird. And now how is that going to make my relationship feel and seem and all these other things? And we get all caught up in our heads and we try and talk ourselves out of what our bodies and our instincts and our intuition is telling us constantly. Our intuition, our instincts is going to tell us that's not food. But guess what? Our vision is like, that looks really good. I know it tastes good, even though I know it's not really food, but I'm still going to consume it. And so we just condition ourselves to not trust ourselves all day long. And so with preparing for free birth, I encourage you to take note, right? Something like that comes up and you actually notice it, take note. Think about it. You have a minute. You could scroll for a minute. You could journal for a minute on just what was that? And like really start to know yourself in a way that you probably haven't really explored before. Oh, I tell myself I'm okay with this thing, and I'm not. I'm not okay with the way that I feel in my driver's seat of my car because it's actually really friggin' uncomfortable because I'm short and I have to extend my leg really far. So how can I help myself, right? Or how can I spend less time driving in this uncomfortable position because it goes against everything my body wants? And how can I honor myself and my body? That's a really weird example, but it is a thing. It's these little things we just ignore and we just deal with, and then we continue to do that over and over again. And so I think when you're preparing for free birth, that's where you probably should start, is check in with yourself. And that's how you decide the things that you want to then do. And the full array of every test that you could get, you can still get. You can still get it. You can work. Some people do what's called shadow care. I know people who know they want a free birth, but they just need reassurance throughout their pregnancy for whatever reason. They're not there yet. And that where they just trust completely. And so they do shadow care with an OB, and then they go, oops, I have my baby at home. We're all good. I'll see you in 6 weeks or something. Or not. Your doctor's not going to come hunt. The doctor's not going to come hunt you down and be like, we need to know that everyone is okay. That's not going to happen. It's just not. You could literally not tell them you had your baby. And guess what? They may call and be like, hey, we haven't seen or heard from you. Is everything okay? And you'll be like, oh yeah, I have my baby. I'm fine. And they'll be like, okay, congratulations. That's weird, but that's all it's going to be. They'll be like, do you want an appointment? Do you want us to check on you? That's the response you're going to get. So there are people who do shadow care because they want whatever testing, whatever they want to do. You can get all of it also outside of the hospital. There are home birth midwives who will work with moms who are planning free births. You've got to get connected in your community and ask questions, and don't be scared to ask questions. Nobody's going to be like, you're crazy. They may think you're crazy, but but you may also find your answers. But yeah, so prenatally, you can do that. I think the best thing you can do is prepare yourself with learning yourself and learning how your intuition speaks to you and what it sounds like or feels and how to trust it and practice that. I think we can hear somebody tell us what it's like to listen to your intuition. We can read in a book how to develop our intuition, but to practice it throughout the day is the part that a lot of people miss, which is the part that is life-changing. It is life-changing to make decisions based off of an inner knowing versus based off of this data says that, and this data says that, this person's opinion tells me I should do blah, 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 blah. And none of that matters when you know. So if you can get to that place of knowing, you're golden. Like everything, not just your birth and your baby and your pregnancy, everything is easier. Your communication with your partner is easier, it's clearer, it's better because you are coming from a place of knowing, not, I think this is the best decision because I read it in this book that my best friend recommended and I like what her life looks like on the outside. It's just so preparation for free birth is much more internal, but you do have all of the options available to you to do whatever you so choose. There is lists upon lists that you can find on the internet for what tests to take when or what is recommended. Everything that you can think of, you can still do if you're choosing to free birth. And then as far as like preparation for what do I need? You could literally do nothing, buy nothing, have your baby, and be fine. That's just the most simple way to put it. Is that what most of us will do? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are specific things that I want in my birth. I specifically like disposable chuck pads. I specifically like to have a tarp, a specific kind of tarp covering my entire bedroom floor because I don't want to deal with cleaning up stains. Now, can I clean up a stain? Yes. Do I want to? No. So we buy a very specific type of tarp, and my husband lines the floor when I start labor because it's not a slippery tarp, it's a soft tarp, like a drop cloth but is waterproof. And do I want to have a specific number of towels on hand because I keep getting in and out the water because that's how I labor. And I don't want a damp towel on me because then I'm going to be like irritated. Do I want super loud music? That's what I like in my labor. I like super loud music. I like to dance in like candlelit lighting. It just makes birth enjoyable for me. So when I think about what I like, it's going to be completely different for someone else. I know some women who absolutely hate dancing. They don't dance at all. I'm like, you don't move your hips a little? They're like, no, it makes me uncomfortable. I feel icky. Okay, probably don't do that in labor. And then she may labor just the whole time in the birth pool, maybe swaying in the birth pool or something, or maybe laying on her side, moaning and zoning out. Everyone is different. So I invite people when they're preparing to explore what that may feel like. What do you think you like? How do you maybe try it while you're pregnant? How do you think you want to move? Do you want to move? Does it feel comfortable to just lay in one spot? Or does it feel better to like get down on your hands and knees and arch your back and move in these different ways that your body is telling you to move? So I think preparing for free birth, it looks different for everyone, but it helps to have somebody to talk through some of this with. What do you think you might want? Or how do you feel today? And then you could think that thing, I thought I liked light touch and tickly feelings last week, but this week it's just driving me nuts. Those are things to just take note in your mind about yourself. And then if you want something, you can ask for it in your labor if you're not completely alone, which also some people choose to do.
And how do you suggest that partners prepare for free birth?
So I think as a partner, specifically a husband and a man in a situation, they have a very different perspective because they are protectors. And my husband often talks to my clients' husbands man to man from a man's perspective because they are able to connect on a different level. A woman will never think as logically as a man. It's just not going to happen. The way that their brains think in this if then I am prepared, I will fix, I will do XYZ, to the point where they are almost not thinking about it. Because us, we will be like, oh my God, I have to prepare this and I have to get this ready and da, 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 and they don't do that. They are like, all right, this is what it is and this is how it's going to go. So majority of men prepare for free birth in a completely different way. I think they do process the weight of their responsibility in the way that they process the weight of their responsibility when they first find out there's a baby coming or another baby coming or the fourth baby coming. It's okay, I am at the end of the day the protector and the provider for all of these people. So I think they naturally carry different stresses very well. And so men can prepare by really owning their role as a protector. You are there to protect her space and her process. You may join her, but she may not want you to join her, and you can respect and protect her space. And you are the only person who loves her to that extent, and you have already seen her in her most vulnerable, and this will be another moment of her most vulnerable. Like, y'all made love to make that baby, and y'all are gonna make love to birth that baby. And so whatever that looks like for you and your husband is what it will be. And he can be, most men are very quietly confident in their wife's abilities in this time, and they are very good at observing and quietly witnessing their wife become a mother, and that's how they become a father at the same time. They honor you, the mother, and that's them becoming a father. And some men are more active and saying sweet nothing. That's your relationship though, right? Some relationships are like so lovey-dovey and romantic, and other relationships are like, I know you love me, you don't have to keep telling me that. Our love is not the same as the next couple's love, and we don't express it the same way as everyone doesn't express their love the same way. And so I think just for a man to be his authentic self as he witnesses his woman birth their baby and become a completely different, new, wonderful woman, he can just know that she got it. And if she doesn't got it, she will definitely let you know. And when she does call out for you and your help, be there. And that's pretty much it. There's not much to it. Some husbands like to have, I don't know if I would call a cheat sheet of sorts. My husband, in particular, doesn't like to get things wrong. And so he said, I don't ever want to be like, should we go to the hospital or trigger you in that way? So how do I know when I'm supposed like what are the scenarios when you would want me to do something? And so I just made him a little note card that said, if I'm slurring my words, passing out, excessively bleeding to where I'm showing concern, then this is the step I want you to take. So whether that be, I want you to make sure I take this many drops of this tincture, or this warrants us just driving straight to the hospital. I gave him just a very clear, concise, if then guidelines, which there aren't very many things that I would say I'm going to go to the hospital for, but that's for everyone to decide for themselves. And that's the beauty of free birth, is that you get to decide for yourself. So I know people like who technically, based off of medicalized standards, would have been considered having had a severe postpartum hemorrhage, but then they treated themselves at home or retained placenta type stuff. There are things that you can also still treat yourself at home for. And how do you know that going into it? That's why I said most people who plan free births or who are having free births have deeply considered all of the outcomes and they are considering all of these things. Maybe they don't know the words or the technical terms, but they are considering preparing in some way to deal with an unknown circumstance or a scary outcome of a sort. My firstborn was born with an intestine disease that they have the disease because they don't poop within the first 24 hours. It is likely to be in families, right? So if someone has one child has it, it's likely that the next child will have it to some degree. But my husband and my first son's father is not the same person. So even if that was the case, that would be something that, okay, within 24 hours, if my baby didn't poop, okay, I know I need to take them to the hospital. And then I would begin my advocacy process. Would it be the most ideal postpartum? No. But would we be able to handle it and deal with it and take it day by day at that point? Yes, because we know that there's nothing anyone outside ourselves could have done to prevent that. And that's where I think your mindset kind of has to settle is that do you believe that there is someone or something outside of yourself that can make or break whatever situation you're thinking of in your head, whether it be there's something or someone that can prevent a postpartum hemorrhage. No, in hospital they cause them all the time. I watch it. It's the most gut-wrenching thing for me to just watch each step of them causing a hemorrhage. And so it's where do you stand? Where do your beliefs lie? And how confident in yourself are you? And how much are you trusting yourself to make your own decisions at the end of the day? That's what the preparation really comes down to. Yeah, the whole responsibility piece.
I love how you mentioned too, giving your partner, your husband, the permission to be an authority in your birth, to give them permission to be an active participant, give them permission to make decisions with and beside you and on behalf of you. If you can't do them yourself, give them permission to be that protector. I think so many men want to be an active participant, but they don't know how to do that. That's exactly what I teach in our Dad Days course is how do we empower our
Oh,
men to actually be the support system that not only do we as women need, but that I know, want to do, but no one is out there doing. All right, Aaliyah, I have one last
I
thing
love that.
as we wrap up, and I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios that always come up with people who are scared of free birth. And just in a sentence or two, or it may just be like a quick fire answer, I want to know how you would resolve these things or what options people have. Just a quick fire round. This is anyone listening, not medical advice. This is simply meant to say if you are so stuck in the idea that only a hospital can resolve these things or these situations, I am hoping to open your brain up a little bit to there might be other options that you could explore. All right, Aaliyah, you ready? Shoulder dystocia.
Shoulder dystocia can be resolved by position changes. Everybody knows that. Everybody thinks, okay, I wouldn't know to go into this position. But honestly, like if your baby's not coming out, you're going to move your body to try and figure out why. Now, if you yourself are unable to release your baby's shoulder, guess what? Usually your husband is there and you can tell him, I need you to get in there and get the baby out. And husbands also have instincts and intuition that they should also be able to trust and step in, just like we were just talking about. And you should trust your husband, partner, to be able to do that. Now, with shoulder dystocia, getting the baby out is the first part of that, because then once they get out, a lot of those babies need a little bit of help to breathe. And most women don't need someone to tell them how to do this. They would all instinctively do it, but they will bring their baby to their face to face with them, and they will give them breaths. They will suck out whatever mucus, anything that's in there with their own mouths. It is very primal, and it can only happen if you are allowed and in a safe environment where you feel like where your body is not in your thinking brain, where you are in your instinctual primal brain. You are wired for that. You and your baby are wired for that. And so the idea of my baby just going to get stuck and like never come out it's impossible. It's literally impossible. Now, when you get your baby out, if they need help, that is when your instincts will kick in, and then you will also make decisions about, do we need extra support? Do we need to call an EMS? And we have these things available to us in the majority of places where we choose to birth.
Okay, and leaving your baby intact is also a really great addition to that. Your baby is going to be intact. We're not cutting that cord. Now you've got your instinct going, and your body, their body, everyone's working together. Okay, hemorrhage.
Hemorrhage is a weird one, mostly because what we are led to believe is hemorrhage probably isn't. And that's a really hard one for a lot of birth workers to wrap their minds around, because it feels scary to see that much blood coming out. So if you're classifying hemorrhage just by the amount of blood loss, I'd say explore that. Right now, if you've got a woman who's like passing out, she's in and out, she's bleeding, she's passing out, she can't talk, hemorrhage, you can call 911, you can go to the hospital, you can instruct your partner, or when you are coherent, you can do fundal massage on yourself. They can do fundal massage. You can know that your uterus is supposed to get back firm. And if it's not, and you do need medical help, you can say, I need medical help, and get medical help. If you think you just need a little boost to have some more contractions, there are herbal remedies that will give you contractions and work almost as effectively as a shot of Pitocin. I have a friend who is a EMS medic driver person. They got Pitocin. If you call them and you tell them you need Pitocin, they will make sure they have it to give it to you, because you know what's going on. So it is a little bit of having the knowledge and education and information ahead of time for stuff like that, but also knowing that just blood on its own in a large volume does not denote hemorrhage. In my mind, hemorrhage, there's other factors were coming into play here to be able to call something a hemorrhage. Now, if you lost a large volume of blood, but you are pretty much okay, you maybe feel weak, obviously, but you're coherent, you're talking, you're able to hold your baby, you're able to nurse your baby, then you just need to do rebuilding of your blood supply in the next few days. So are you taking iron supplements? Are you taking them with vitamin C? These are things that midwives also will do if they know that a woman lost a larger amount of blood than not a larger amount of blood. They may give you a specific iron supplement with some vitamin C to drink together, to take together, to build your blood back up faster postpartum, or in the first couple days postpartum, so you can get your strength back.
And what about retained placenta?
Retained placenta is interesting. So most women don't know they have retained placenta until days later. And or if you're having hemorrhage because you have retained placenta, those are two different things. With hemorrhage, you would inspect your placenta. If there's nothing wrong with your placenta, then okay. If you're hemorrhaging and you have retained placenta, you can reach inside of yourself and get it. You can take, like I said, tinctures to encourage your body to expel the placenta. You can call medical help. We do have emergency services for emergency reasons. And I do hope everybody knows that most places have some type of emergency service within a decent radius. Retained placenta is also, so if you have retained placenta without hemorrhage, like you just a couple days later, you're not feeling good, maybe some smells, maybe you have a fever, you can then again take herbal supplements that will cause you to have contractions. And I don't know what other people would do. If you just wait, you're just going to get an infection. So you could also seek medical care at that point. But other than that, there isn't like some just wait and see. That's not really an answer that I would ever give. I don't know that anyone would give that answer. But I would say that's where preparing yourself as far as being an advocate for yourself and knowing how to speak hospital language and advocate for yourself and your rights comes into play in the event that you do need to seek medical care. I am not someone who is like, never seek medical assistance. I am not someone who is, oh, wait and see until it's detrimental to your health. I am not someone who would do that or recommend that for anyone. If you know something is wrong, why would you ignore it? So then I would say if you don't know what exactly is wrong, something is wrong, that's reason enough to seek the medical care that you can have access to. Now, whether or not you are 100% honest with when you go to a medical facility with what is going on, I don't know how to advise people on that. I'm perfectly confident to say I had a free birth, this is what happened. Or my husband is also very confident to say I had a free birth, this is what happened, this is what's going on. I have spoken with an OB who is a friend who said, if you need medical care when you are in the process of free birthing or immediate postpartum, he said, I don't think you should tell the emergency room you were having a free birth because they will treat you different. And that's a shame, but that is his perspective. And so I always tell people, do with that what you will. I don't care if you're going to treat me differently, I'm already coming to the place that I despise to come. I'm already accepting that, all right, my perfect experience will not be perfect. And we're going to deal with whatever is coming up now. But yeah, I'm never going to tell someone like, don't seek medical care because they're going to be mean to you because you were having a free birth. They might be mean to you. And it might be a really shitty experience when you do seek out the help that you need. But I don't think that's a reason to not seek out help.
Yeah, I agree. Alia, this has been so insightful. Thank you so much for being here with me today. How can people connect with you and learn from you if they were hoping to do that?
Yeah, I am at How to Have a Free Birth on Instagram. I am aliawright.com, ALIAWRIGHT and I offer one-on-one coaching for free birth. I am launching my course, How to Have a Free Birth. That's literally what it's called. But I don't tell you how to birth. I help you trust that you already know how. And so that's the work that we do in my course. And in there is also information about all of the things, but it's optional because most of the time you don't need all of the things. And so we get into all of that in there. So that's How to Have a Free Birth, the course. And then you could also work with me one-on-one as a free birth coach. And I offer virtual doula services for women, families planning free births as well.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here. All right, you guys, I hope that this conversation wasn't as insightful for you as it was for me. We talked about what prenatal care looked like. We talked about radical responsibility. We talked about preparing your partner and how to empower your husband to be that supporter, be that protector. We talked about the definition of a free birth and all the options that you have if free birth is feeling good to you. If you feel called to explore that option for yourself, I hope that this conversation was helpful. I'll see you in the next episode. Be sure to follow Alia on social media, and you can find me at Tranquility by HeHe and at the.birth.lounge. Until next time, head to your app store and download the Birth Lounge app for evidence-based childbirth education and data-driven postpartum support delivered straight to your phone. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I love hanging out with you, and it is an honor to be your go-to gal when it comes to preparing for your baby. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and tell others why they should be listening to the Birth Lounge podcast too. You deserve to have a birth that you love with a provider that values your autonomy and respects informed consent without all the trauma that you so commonly hear about on social media. New episodes air every Wednesday and Friday. Hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. I'm HeHe, and this is the Birth Lounge Podcast.